Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another Chelsea transfer news special. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stream yesterday as we got the Caicedo announcement finally. But here we are today. We're close to a here we go for Romeo Lavia. We have activated Michael Olise's release clause at Crystal Palace. We will talk about that. And of course, Caicedo's announcement and everything else he brings. Is he worth £150 million? But also, now that we have Caicedo, do we need Lavia? All sorts of stuff that we need to discuss. Who else we're still going to sign? How Chelsea are finding their ways around financial fair play or the Premier League equivalent, because financial fair play doesn't actually currently exist to us or apply to us. But it's still an exciting time. Now, I did say, and I will have to stand by what I said, as much as I am and will be gassed once Caicedo is here, I will not forget to mention that we could have had him for a lot cheaper than we are getting him for. But that doesn't take anything away from the player. That doesn't take anything away from how happy I am about the signing, because our midfield has now finally been transformed. And we've been asking for it for years. We've been crying for it for months. Finally. It's only Tuesday, and I absolutely cannot wait. Oh, Pies has lost connection. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. Absolutely cannot wait for next Sunday until we finally play again, hopefully with Caicedo in midfield, maybe with Lavia in midfield as well. We'll have to wait and see. I will say big welcome back to Jem. It's been a hot minute. The last time I sent you a StreamYard link was on April 3rd. So if that's the last time we streamed together, it's mental. It's not August. So first of all, bro, thank you for being back on. I appreciate it very, very much. But how you feeling? I know you were a big fan of Caicedo for a hot minute, I feel like, if memory serves me right.
I mean,
So, you excited about this one?
I am. I've been out as long as Wesley Fofana has in injuries last season, to be honest. But it feels good to be back. But I am. Obviously we're going to talk about it more in detail in a bit, obviously. But he was always our plan A, and I kind of understand why in terms of the ability of the player, what he offers, and obviously we'll get into all that. But I'm just happy that we're actually moving mad this summer, but we're also making the right decisions when it comes to actually signing individuals. And I don't think we've done that in the past for a little while, and it feels good to actually see, all right, maybe not experienced players, experienced in different ways, but young prospects coming across and then having the potentials of actually being managed by an actual manager as well in Pochettino, which we've not had, which feels like for a long time since Thomas Tuchel. Let's be serious for parts. But yeah, I'm excited, mate. And and as a Chelsea fan, I think we should be excited. These owners are stepping up and getting, all right, they're spending the money, but they're getting the job done, and that's the key thing here at the moment.
Absolutely. There's not too much to criticize the owners for at the moment, other than maybe a few, hiring decisions. But to some extent, obviously, the Winstanleys and all these people, they were their first hires. With the manager, that didn't work out. So maybe it didn't work out with the sport director side, and eventually a change will come, and then we'll just be laughing all the way to the bank. Pies, first of all, thank you for being back on. You weren't here after the Liverpool game, so I will ask you, both of you, your thoughts on that one as well. But also the Caicedo announcement. I mean, one of the longest and craziest transfer sagas I can ever remember. Obviously, back in the day, there was like Johnny Mikel and stuff. But as much as that was crazy, I'm not sure if it was as dragged out. But obviously, it was also in the time where the information that the public had on what was going on was very different and a lot more limited. So, but now in 2023, this kind of transfer saga, like it felt like, at least, we knew everything that was going on, well, since May or whatever. And for a lot of the time, we were just sat there, why are we not doing anything? We finally got it done in the end. And as much as we all would have loved him a bit sooner, better late than never, I guess. And we have our midfield now. And I am buzzing. I just said it to Jem before you rejoined. But I just cannot wait for Sunday. I can't even lie. I cannot wait to see us play again.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, bro. I think even though we drew against Liverpool, I think, we played really well most of the game. We probably should have won. And I'm really looking forward to seeing us on Sunday. It's a shame that it's still a long time, but that just goes to show that obviously, last season we really didn't want to see the games, and now we desperately want to see the games. It just shows that stuff is happening in the right direction. And some of these signings we're making are just so good. Caicedo finally over the line. As you said, it's been a long old saga. I'm just glad it's over now. And Michael Olise and Romeo Lavia as well look really close. And just two more quality additions for me. I think I put a tweet out earlier where, like, back in the day, we used to kind of in transfer windows, maybe 1 out of every 3 sort of targets we had were someone you'd be excited about. Now it's like every single one that they're signing for the first team, you're like, wow, yeah, he's a really good player. Like, I want him. So, whether it was going to be Olise or Kudus or maybe even both, I don't know. But the point is, like, the recruitment and the identification of the players we're going for, I think is top drawer. And I'm just so looking forward to see how it all gels, because I think, based off the limited time we have had with Pochettino, it's been really good. And the players are gelling much quicker than I thought they would. So just really gutted to see us again Sunday.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Just quickly to touch on the Liverpool game before we get into all the transfer chat about Caicedo, Lavia, Olise, and some other bits and bobs as well. Obviously, Pice, you were there. I'm not sure if you were, Jem, but you watched the game. I'll start with you, Jem. What did you make of that game? Obviously, a shame we didn't manage to win it at the end with that Mudryk and then Maatsen chance. But other than that, other than the first 20, 25 minutes, we were really good. And that was exciting to see, especially like new manager, a lot of new signings. They don't really know each other that well yet. Mm-hmm. So as much as I said that many a times when we got new managers and always said, we'll only be better in 3 months' time, and we sometimes weren't. But hopefully this time we are, and it was a good start, even if it was only a point, right?
100%, and you've got to bear in mind there was 4 new debuts that started in that game as well, and like you said,
and then another 2 off the bench.
Exactly. So all these things are going to take a little bit of time, more than just the game against Liverpool. But do you know what? I thought, the first 25 minutes, I think from watching it, I don't think they fully carried across the orders of what Poch really required. I think the spaces between the wing backs, Reece James and Chilwell, left the back three vulnerable for the first 25 minutes. And it was noticeable. And obviously they got their first goal, which was a good goal, by the way. And I know some people were criticising Sanchez for not saving that. I don't think even Kepa would have saved that personally. I just think it was just one of them ones where you just say, hold your hands up and say good goal, in my opinion. It was a very good goal. And then obviously the second went in and we was lucky it was offside. But then things changed and we took control of the game, and it kind of gave us a bit of a boost. And we tightened up across the pitch. James and Chilwell's positioning was a lot better when we were off the ball. You saw Conor Gallagher's game stepping up, especially in the second half, because even he was struggling in the middle, which again doesn't surprise me because he's not a 6. But even he stepped up. And Enzo Fernandez, I mean, what a player, eh? And I keep saying it, and we stressed about it last season. I said when people were questioning him, saying, we're not seeing, and even though everyone was saying he was still good, we wasn't seeing the full potential of him. It was always the case of saying he needs to be further forward. He needs to have that freedom role. And the one thing that I think Poch has identified already with him is that if you're going to get the best out of him, he kind of needs to be able to be that free, to have that free role to sort of be, further up to the attackers. He also gets back as well and does his bit. But, it was just an overall world-class performance, deserves man of the match, and it was amazing. And then you get to the attack, and I thought, Jackson, I like Jackson. From what I've seen of him in such a short space of time, I think he has a lot of attributes that are very good. Obviously, yes, he should have finished that. In my opinion, I think he should have at least hit the target with that chance from Reece James on the cross, and maybe it would have been a different story. But at the same time, it was, we dominated that game. It was positive. And in all fairness, we probably should have won that game based on the 90 minutes, in my opinion, as well. But I'm not too hard done about it. I was just happy to see that we actually, for once, had a game plan. We look at the Potters and the Lampards, what we have seen in the past. We never saw that. We never knew how to break a team down. We never really saw the patterns of play, the transitional movement. It was nothing. But what we saw under Poch in a short space of time was they were drilled to play in a way, especially later in the game, of trying to know how to break down the opposition. And it was through the right quite a lot. And Reece James and even Sterling, who gets a lot of criticism, by the way, I don't think had some bad moments, as he does with the ball, and I think he needs to be better. But there was also some good moments in him as well. So hopefully we can move forward with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be interesting how it's going to go in terms of breaking teams down when it's going to be a team that are more focused on defending against us than Liverpool are. Obviously, also Liverpool's midfield, they don't even have a DM. So as much as I was buzzing about the game, I don't want to be too excited about, we beat their midfield. Yeah, but their midfield is also really bad. They put Gakpo in midfield. There's Soboslai in midfield, who's not really an 8 either. And McAllister, who is an 8, as a 6. So if anything, it was more shocking that we struggled so much in the first 20, 25 minutes in that area of the pitch. It's actually interesting. I'm not sure if you followed that part enough of it, Jen, but Poch said after the game, and there was when we were on this stream after the game, there was a lot of debates what formation was in and stuff. And Poch explained it after the game how off the ball it was, on the ball we attacked in a 5, I guess a back 3 and 2 wing backs. But on the ball we actually played a back 4, and Chile was a left mid, and Cobra was the left back. That's what Poch. I literally listened to him explain it. I didn't necessarily see it as such all the time, but in my opinion, that only really started to work after that 20-25 minutes when Poch made a change. And that change was dropping Enzo deeper, because at the beginning, it was kind of Gallagher alone as a 6. And we almost had a diamond, weirdly, in midfield. But Enzo was kind of in front of Gallagher rather than next to him at all. And as soon as Enzo dropped, and Liverpool didn't only have one player to press in that area, but 2. And we could either go to Enzo or to Gallagher. And then obviously Enzo with how good he is. Then we just started to dominate them. And it was just really, really good to see. Honestly, I absolutely loved it. The only thing I didn't love was, doesn't have to be Chile at left wing back. As long as it's, at left wing. As long as it's only against Liverpool in the first game of the season, I'm okay with that. But if this is something we're going to do often, I'm like, what do we have wingers for then, mate? But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I'm still buzzing about it. Max, Pice, you were at the game. How was it for you? Like, first 20-25 was a struggle. And obviously, if that 2-0 goes in, everything looks very differently and we probably lose that game. But thankfully, that was called for offside. And after that, we really stepped up. And, it was really good. And, not only, like Jem mentioned, did we have a game plan and everything, I think another important factor to mention is also that we came back. Like, we had things go against us. We conceded that goal. Obviously, there was this kind of boost, even though nothing actually happened when that goal got ruled out. Because I guess in our minds, we went 2-0 down for a second. And then, actually, we're only 1-0 down. We still have a chance. So I guess that gives you a boost in a way as well. But still, the fact that we came back, and I know we didn't win the game, but still, we went 1-0 down, nearly went 2-0 down. And rather than capitulate like we did so many times last season, and even the season before at times, we fought against it, kind of, took control of the game, dominated the game, got the equalizer, nearly got a 2-1, and just kept pushing to try and win. And to me, those were arguably the most exciting things that, I know it's only one game, so next week it could be completely different again, but that I saw, even if we concede a goal and everything, we're not just down and out anymore like we were last season. Not that I expected us to be down and out every time we concede like last season. Obviously not. But it was still good to see, and a good kind of, I don't know, just giving me a bit of confidence that we weren't necessarily always going to like capitulate the second we concede. I know, Pice, you probably didn't hear all of what I just said because you just rejoined. But basically, your thoughts about the game.
Yeah, I thought it was decent. I think, as you said, the first sort of 20-25 minutes, we struggled a bit. But I think you have to remember, we was playing a different way. Like, we was playing, a different to pre-season. It wasn't a 4-2-3-1, although Poch did say the aim was to try and be that. But for me, it definitely looked more like a 3 at the back. I think my main takeaways from the game was that Nicolas Jackson is amazing, to be honest with you. All-round player. I know he should have probably scored, but his all-round play, like the fans around me as well, were just sort of like blushing over him. Like, genuinely, it was just his hold-up play, like his movement, his defensive work as well, like dropping deep. Like, considering how isolated he was up there, I felt like, and a lot of people felt like he was very isolated. I thought he did very, very well. And I'm extremely, extremely excited to see him on Sunday again. I think, as Jem said, Enzo Fernandez was really, really good. But I actually think Conor Gallagher was unbelievable in the ground anyway. I saw some people say online they didn't think he was that great.
Mate,
and I understand there was still spaces. A lot of time we did get caught out on transition, but just in general, I was like, this can't be Conor Gallagher playing football. Like, his work rate, his on-ball ability was just so much better. Like, he was so much more calmer. He was winning second balls. That tackle he made on Salah, by the way, was outstanding because he had to get that right. Salah
I thought he was getting sent off. And
he would have either got a red card. It would have been a red card, or he would have, or Salah would have scored. He would have missed the tackle. So, those are my main sort of 3 players that I was, really happy with. I think Disasi definitely has some weaknesses, but he grew into the game massively, and I think he's going to be a really good player for us. The first goal, actually, I watched it back, and when I was in the ground, I thought Disasi was completely at fault, but actually, Reece James got back very slowly and lost his man, really. It was Diaz on James. So, I kind of blame James more for that one now I've seen it back. But, Yeah, I think it was a really, really good performance. I think very positive, and yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to say. I think we should have won. It's just such a shame that Alisson's one of the best 1v1 keepers are coming out, because if that's another keeper, I think Mudryk probably manages to score, but
or Chile in one of
yeah.
those few chances that he had as well.
Yeah, I was like, honestly, when Chilwell scored, I was actually so impressed he got round Alisson, because I can't remember too many keepers who have rounded Alisson and tapped it in like that. So yeah, fair play, but yeah, it's just a shame that it was offside. I did think it was offside in the ground, so I didn't celebrate too much. But at the same time, like they had one disallowed as well, so it's a typical Chelsea Liverpool game. Lots of drama, another draw, and yeah, just a lot of big moments in the game that could have swung either way. And I think we just always draw to them. I probably should have predicted a draw. Probably should have put 1-1 on and won lots of money.
Yeah. Although chances are, with how often we draw, the odds wouldn't have even been that good. So you might not have even won that much money. But yeah, just one last question to both of you guys about kind of the game. And I did even put a tweet out about this like yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever it was. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, over 300 of you watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that like button. Let's get to 150 likes right now. Click that like button. I'd massively appreciate it. But Conor Gallagher, you're touching him there, Pies, and I'll take it to you, Jim. We're not used to seeing him as a 6. He obviously did it in preseason in part of a double pivot. Yes, on Sunday was even kind of a single 6 at times, and then obviously a double pivot with Enzo. But especially from that half an hour mark onwards, he was so good that now obviously we're signing Lavia now, so we are kind of stacked. But did Gallagher in that one game, and I know that sounds crazy, but did he do enough that we should maybe consider keeping him? Because it's a tough one, because he's only learning this position. Like, he's new to this position. So for him to be this good at it, this soon into starting to play it, tells me he can only be better than that. So, and maybe this is a position where his sometimes lack of technical ability, but on the other hand, though, extreme physical effort and ability that he has, that he constantly can run, that his interceptions are good. Like, he had a lot of strong interceptions, not just tackles, but reading of where to be, how to stop a pass and stuff was strong. So I understand that we get a lot of money for him, and him being homegrown, he would help us balance the books quite drastically. But I think there's a shout for him to stay now. I will be honest, but how do you see it, Jim?
I think it makes it a lot harder now Lavia's come. Just because, and then you got to think of Santos as well, who's being kept in the team as well. So, if he's going to play, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he will go on loan, but, it's what do you do with him? And, the only real position you could maybe throw him back into is in a more of a forward position, which I think we've seen enough of last season to say that maybe he's just not technically good enough to, find himself in the pockets to receive the balls and then maybe, help us transition quicker. And I just don't think it works that way. So, yeah, it was impressive. The second half, I still don't think we can forget the first half, though, slightly, just because, and I know we did say...
But do you think that's his fault, or do you think it's more Potter's fault that he left him on his own, and once he put Enzo next to him, it worked?
Annoyed me with him in the first half. Too long on the ball when he needed to release it, got caught. Some of his passes didn't even make where it needed to make. And it's not his fault, partly, because he's being played in a position where he isn't a 6, and I get that. Maybe if he was given more time there, he could be useful there. I just don't feel comfortable seeing him there. It's like when we used to put Ruben Loftus-Cheek on the right wing.
Yeah, I get you.
But
could you get used to seeing it?
Good. It's okay, and it can. We may be able to get away with it with certain games, but is it good enough to have him in the team and play? If something happens to Lavia, let's just say in the future and whatever, and he comes in and plays that role, is it good enough to be sustained in that position? And that's the only thing where I'm like, I don't think so.
That's difficult to say after one game, right? Because you don't know, was it a one-off or is it always going to be great? I hear you. Absolutely hear you. I get the Santos statement as well. It's a weird one because Ugochukwu is the guy that came on. I know he only got a couple of minutes, but it's still him that came on and not Santos. So now I'm a lot less sure which one of them, if any of them, is going to stay. Because would it be that bad now that we have Enzo, will have Lavia, have Caicedo, if rather than keeping Santos and Ugochukwu around, we loan both of them out and keep Gallagher as that fourth option? Like, would that be awful? Like, make sure we give Ugochukwu and Santos, who are 18 and 19 years old, regular game time, because they won't have regular game time with us this season. They will get minutes, but they won't start every game. If they go on loan, they can start every game. And for the development, that is arguably better. So we would, in turn, then have better players coming back next season. Like, I don't know. Pais, how do you see it? Like, did Gallagher do enough to potentially convince you to keep him? But also, like I say, it's more so with who the other options are. Gallagher has been here for a while. He's weirdly, one of the more senior players now, especially with having so many young guys around. Would it be bad having someone like Gallagher, I don't know, show them around, Cobham, as stupid as that sounds, essentially? Like, how do you see it? What has Gallagher done? And what would you do with Ugochukwu and Santos? Which one of them would you keep? Which one of them would you put out on loan? Or, like I say, would you loan out both of them and keep Gallagher?
I think it's going to be really interesting because, like, if we do get Lavia and we play, a 4-3-3, like saying both of them start, I think it gives us more scope to keep a Gallagher and probably someone else like Chukwuemeka can probably then drop into a 4-3-3, and then maybe you do loan Santos or you do loan Ugochukwu. I think it's going to go on loan anyway. For me, it's more Santos. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. If we're still playing, 4-2-3-1, then maybe there is even less opportunities because I don't quite think people understand how much Enzo and Caicedo are going to play together. So if we do go with the 4-2-3-1, then the Lavia signing looks a little bit, for this season anyway. It's like, well, how much is he going to play? So I think there's a lot of like moving parts which you need to verify before like we decide one thing or another. But the thing is with Gallagher for me is like with the amount of money we've spent this window, I feel like if a good offer comes in, like £40 million, I just feel like you have to take it just to get some money back, get pure profit on the books. But I wouldn't mind him staying. Like he definitely has impressed in pre-season and he's impressed against Liverpool. So, I honestly, he was, I've done a complete like 360 on him lately, to be honest, because he has really impressed me. And I think he's looked, I don't know, I just think Pochettino's, made him look a bit better. I don't know. Maybe the ponytail as well has done him wonders, but he's definitely looking better. And I think it's important to have those type of players in the squad that don't necessarily, demand the most minutes, but can also give you that like ridiculous work rate, can play in, a few positions and just be a really nice, bench and rotation option. So depends on formation, depends on what offers are received, depends on, how highly they rate Santos, because I know the club rate Santos really highly, but I don't know about Poch yet. And, we'll
like
see
I say,
happens.
he didn't bring Santos on. He didn't use him in that last preseason game against Dortmund either. Doesn't feel like to me he wants to put all too many responsibilities on him at the moment. And if that's the case, what's the point in keeping him around this season? Just loan him then. That will be better for his development in my thinking. I mean, Chelsea Godfather here puts an interesting comment saying Ugochukwu is more experienced than Santos, played over 60 Ligue 1 matches. Santos has barely played at the top level. First of all, it's just fact. At the same time, for me, one of them has to go on loan anyway. It's just a question of should it be both or should it only be one of them? If it's only one of them, even though I see your explanation makes me think it's Ugochukwu that should go on loan, because whoever that player is that stays behind Enzo, Caicedo, and Lavia is not going to get that many minutes. So Santos, first of all, that 1 year younger, but also Santos staying here. He's not that used to playing regularly at the top level yet anyway. So you can give him a season with us, get used to everything, maybe learn the language and everything else. Maybe give him a loan next season. You never know. While Ugochukwu, he's used to playing all the time. If you now have him as the fourth choice midfielder and he never gets game time, that might not be ideal for his own happiness, but also for his own development. So maybe because he's more used to playing regularly, maybe that's exactly why he should be the one to go on loan. I don't know. It's really difficult. It really depends on how many minutes they're going to get from Poch, and we just don't know that at this point. Just quickly before we get into talking about Caicedo and stuff, Pais, is this a report that we should take seriously at all? I would be baffled if PSG entertain us again over this, I'll be honest.
I don't know who that journalist is, to be honest with you.
Me neither. I mean, PSG reports found it reliable enough to report it, I guess, but I don't know. I hope he goes there, honestly, but because I still feel a bit bad to him about how this all went down in January. So I would be happy with it.
I mean, I can't imagine we'd touch PSG with a barge pole after Ugarte, what happened there as well. But
did they piss us off with that?
Well, yeah, I think they deliberately upped the wages to ridiculous amounts so we couldn't match them.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, game's the game. What we did essentially similar things with Liverpool for Caicedo and Lavia, not necessarily on wages, but we did things that they couldn't match, whether that's in attraction for whatever reason but I don't know. Let's just see what happens with Ziyech, I guess. Let's get into talking about Caicedo. And I want to start this by opening with the announcement video that Chelsea made, or the Chelsea release, because what an announcement video it was. Absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. Obviously, there's the picture, which we all of him and his mum. And honestly, I'll be perfectly honest. Oh, I need to turn the sound off. Don't copyright me, YouTube. But I saw that picture, obviously, before. I'm sure we all did. But you never know nowadays. It could have been edited. It could have been AI. Who the flip knows? But this is a great announcement video. Do you agree with that, Pice, or a bit too sentimental for you?
No, I liked it, but to be honest, I like the ones where like they do like an edit, like a TIG style edit. That guy who does the edits and that type of thing, like a proper. I think Havertz's announcement video was sick. I really liked that one. Also, the ones they did with the trains, when we signed Silva and stuff like that. Like I liked those, but yeah, I think Chelsea have been like more. I don't know, like it's more like professional now. I think in terms of just more formal. So yeah, I do quite like it. Yeah, it's nice. I liked the transition into the old picture. I think that was really sick. But I almost feel like you have to do like one or the other. Like you do a statement or you do one big announcement video and then confirmation. Where sometimes I feel like Chelsea do like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's all messed up. Like they may even do like a hint before, and it's like I just love it when it comes as a surprise. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I think the surprise days are long over with the people like Fabrizio and David Ornstein and stuff existing, I guess. But yeah, I'll bring up the other one as well. One of my other favorite videos that they posted alongside this, which thankfully doesn't have copyrighted music.
He was never in doubt. I was always a blue.
There you go. I mean, that is also just brilliant. I mean, it's everything that's come out. Honestly, I'll be perfectly honest. I was not aware quite how seemingly, at least, obviously, this could PR and they could have told him to say all these things, but how seemingly attached to Chelsea he is. Like, even aside from our, groundwork that we did to convince him of joining us, because if I knew that, I would have for the whole time been a lot less concerned about Liverpool. I'll be perfectly honest, because that, in my opinion, that does make a big difference. So, yeah. Also, the more I see it, the more I'm a big fan of this shirt, and the more I want to know what the flip is happening with the sponsor. But, Jem, both of those videos, do you think we did well on the announcement, or do you see it like Pice, where it's more like the edited style videos that you prefer?
I thought it was pretty class, to be honest. It was different in the way that it had that more like sort of. Do you remember Lukaku got announced and it was like the attachment to Chelsea sort of thing, which was just rubbish anyway, unfortunately. But it had that sort of rift about it in the way that you see him in the Chelsea shirt when he was young, and then all of a sudden bang. And yeah, you're right. I think, to be honest, a lot of for us as fans, a lot of like the way the emotional roller coaster of going through transfer sagas falls on the journalists, because he's probably sitting there, and it feels like it watching him from there, just sitting there like, I'm going Chelsea. Even when Liverpool bidded that crazy bid and we thought it was all over, he's probably still sitting there going, I'm not accepting that. I'm going Chelsea. Like, yeah, but we're putting our hair out like, oh my God, he's going. No, someone said that he prefers Liverpool to us now and he's happy, and oh my. So a lot of it's just, I think, built up, in my opinion, by the journalists as well. And it was definitely a good touch.
There you go. The one thing I do want to do now together, and I know Jem was actually about to watch it or was in the process of watching it as he joined this stream, is Caicedo's first interview. I thought it's just 3 minutes long. Let's just watch it together on stream. I'm sure Pice has already seen it. I've only seen the first bit of it, and then I was like, actually, let's watch it on stream. So let's do that now, and then let's just talk about it, what we think. Like, is he worth all of that? And, in all of that detail. Let me just find the interview. There it is. And let's just watch it and go from there.
It was always a dream to play for Chelsea. Very excited to be here. I can't wait to start with with the guys. Yeah, I support Chelsea when I was a kid because I saw a lot of players in the midfield like Makelele or N'Golo Kante. They were my inspiration for me to support Chelsea as well. I'm here to be a great player, to help to the team, to become a legend in this amazing club. Every year I have to do my best for this amazing club, one of the biggest club in the world. I'm here to become a legend for this amazing club. I'm so happy to be working for Mauricio Pochettino. He speaks Spanish as well. It's so good for me because I can understand more. I like play more like a central midfielder to help the team to make some tackles. I like to make a lot of tackles. I know Rob Sanchez, Marc Cucurella. I share with them at Brighton. They speak so well about Chelsea. Yeah, it's more easy to join Chelsea. It's a dream come true to be here. It's amazing. I think tonight I don't gonna sleep because it's a dream come true. Yeah, I like to have my big family, 10 siblings. I'm the youngest. For me, the most important is the family because when you had bad moments, they deserve to have in the good moments. Yeah, that's why when I'm in Ecuador, I try to enjoy with my brothers and sisters because it's amazing, to share with them. Yeah, she's here now. I feel so happy. She's my inspiration. My dad's well, but he's not here for sure. He's praying for me and wishing all the best for me. I train every day for them. I remember them when I'm training and in every game as well. Yeah, they are my inspiration. I always like it to play with the old friends because I told myself if I play with them, I can be more stronger, They always support me as well to keep working hard. They help me to grow up quicker. That's why I made a lot of tackles, as you know, on the pitch.
I think it's fair to say the fans are very excited to watch you play, Moises.
Just thank you, all the fans, for supporting me. I'm gonna give everything for this amazing club. It's a dream come true to be here, and yeah, I'm gonna become a legend for you, Chelsea fan.
I mean, he's very confident, saying he's going to become a legend for us. But hey, I absolutely love it. Absolutely brilliant. One of 10 siblings. That is mental as well. Imagine having 9 siblings and being the youngest. That's absolutely mental. But yeah, I think he comes across really well in that interview. Obviously, the English isn't amazing yet, but considering it's 18 months, it's an all-English interview. So I do like that. But like he says, Poch obviously speaking Spanish will be beneficial to integrating him as well. Also, his midfield partner speaking Spanish will only help him to integrate quicker as well. Jem, good interview.
Yeah, of course it was. He is quite a confident boy. From what I was actually reading on the on Twitter just now, there was a comment where he was asked about Enzo Fernandez, and he said every time I've come up against him, I've won. Like, basically, he said, it's just funny the way he said it. He's just quite a confident guy. He goes, but he goes, in all fairness, I think, we'll be good playing next to each other. We'll learn from each other, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he seems very confident. Obviously, being a Chelsea fan, he's watched us since obviously being young. I say youngest, he's not that old, is he, really? He's still a baby. No. But, since we've been winning things anyway. And yeah, it was a good. He reminds me, and I keep saying this, that I've obviously even watched him at Brighton. He reminds me of Michael Essien in the way that he plays. I know we're going to talk about him in a bit, like his abilities and stuff like that, but it just gives me that feeling. I don't know why, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe a bit smaller in frame than Essien was, but no, I do see it. Absolutely. It's interesting because obviously he talks about even having watched Claude Makelele, which Caicedo is 21. He's born in 2002. What do you mean you watched Makelele? But do you know what I mean? But apparently he watched like compilations and stuff when he was young as a midfielder and wanted to learn. So absolutely rate that. And obviously N'Golo Kante, certainly similarities between him and Kante as well, I would say. But Pais, good interview from your perspective as well.
Man, I'm just so gassed for Sunday, honestly. I just want to watch us play again. I want to watch that midfield. I want to watch, just our team. Like, it's good times right now, honestly. We can get Lavia in as well. Like, our midfield's just going to be so disgusting. Like, we're going to have the ball for like 80% of the game. Like, honestly, these three midfielders are so good on the ball. Like, we're just going to dominate most teams. Like, I'm generally that positive about this midfield. Yeah, he comes across as extremely confident, and you need that when you sign for a big price tag, by the way. Like, if you're if it's always a big personality. You need to have big personality. You need to have confidence, because if that price tag gets you, then things can deteriorate quickly. So, yeah, clearly, I don't think it will for him. He's obviously been through a lot when he was growing up as well. So, I think he's just going to take this in his stride, and yeah, I just think he's going to do really, really well here. I see main comparisons to Kante in the way they play. Kante, but can play as a six. Very good on the ball. Good going forward. Underrated passing, but just that defensive ability is the main thing. The tackles, like you're saying, he likes to make tackles. This is what we need. So yeah, this is what we need. Interceptions, ball winning, tackles. Like, this is what we've signed him for. And yeah, I think some fans are going to be pleasantly surprised of how good he is in the first phase as well, because he's played a year under De Zerbi, and I remember the FA Cup semi-final against Man United. Like, he was literally picking the ball up as a lone six and just like dropping his shoulder past players with ease. He's seen it against us as well. Like, he's definitely got that side to him as well. He's not just this ball winner and tackler. People are going to be surprised, trust me, with that element as well.
Yeah, mate. I'm just absolutely buzzing. I have a super chat here from Enoch, basically asking you directly, Pies, are we going to play with a sponsor on Sunday? I assume we don't know.
I don't know, bro. I think it's still going through Premier League approval. I'll try and get an update, but yeah, I think honestly, I don't think that Infinite thing will go through. I've just got a feeling the Premier League are going to block it, or like they'll make some sort of like restrictions, because I think Matt Law said like they were going to decide how much we earn. Like, what the hell? Like, surely the ownership don't want that. So yeah, I think we might be in a bit of a pickle, but let's see.
Yeah, let's see. I guess. I mean, I don't think they will necessarily stop the sponsorship. I think they might just make us earn less, because if it's a new company and they don't have the records and the don't know what you call it exactly, the tax reports, I guess, to justify sponsoring us with this much money as a new company. But I guess it then depends on all the companies that have come together to create this one. So who knows? But because there hasn't been a thing yet, I don't think it's done, because otherwise, and when I say done, I don't think it's like not happening, because otherwise we would have heard about that already, I feel like, if it wasn't happening. At the same time, we didn't even know about Paramount Plus long until after Premier League apparently said we can't have it. So who knows? But Pies, I'll stick with you to start on this. Caicedo, he will obviously play next to Enzo Fernandez. It's a double pivot, presuming will be a double pivot, that cost us, with add-ons, a combined total of £220 million, which is just stupendous money when you think about it. He's also now costing us more than Enzo. Now, it's apparently going to be likely about the same, because half of the add-ons, so it's £100 million base fee with £50 million in add-ons, if I'm correct. And about half of those add-ons are fairly easily achieved, and the other half are fairly unlikely or very difficult to achieve, and we'll only pay them if we get ridiculously successful again, which then we don't care, do we? But it's a lot of money. Does that bother you at all? Obviously, we've spoken about it all summer long, how we could have got him probably for 90 if we did it before Rice went to Arsenal. We could have got him for 100 if we just did the whole thing a week ago and just bid before Liverpool got involved. Now we had to pay 115, even if that's just including add-ons. But do you think it will be worth it? Do you think we will talk about that transfer fee much? Like, we haven't for Enzo, have we?
No, I don't. Honestly, I think we'll be surprised if we do. I think he's going to be very consistent for us. I just don't see how he couldn't be. Like, he's got so many attributes to his game that, even if he, for example, like if he messes up like a good opportunity to pass or something, like, I can guarantee we'll be talking about like 4 important tackles he made, or like 1 really important block. So there'll always be like I just don't think we'll obviously he'll have a stinker every now and again, but I just don't think it will be very often at all. But yeah, it does bother me, the fact that we've paid so much, because like you said, like, we probably could have got this for 100 or 90 a few weeks ago. Like, we've definitely Brighton have done us lovely on this. Congrats to them as well because they bought him for £4 million. So
That is
fucking
mental.
hell. I mean, yeah, we need to nick Tony Bloom's computer, bro, because it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I've seen
Check
there
the hard
after.
drives.
Yeah, I've seen there after the Lille midfielder, so I think we should nick him, get him to Strasbourg. So that he's their Caicedo replacement apparently. So
I thought they were getting the guy from Salzburg.
no, apparently it's the Lille guy now. Fabrizio said, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money. I mean, I saw it on Sky Sports the other day, and like when they say 115 million pounds, they like to put emphasis on it, and it does sound like it's nuts, but at the same time, like I genuinely think, like, look at what West Ham are asking for. It looks like Man City are going to pay like 80 million pounds for Paqueta. I mean, what the hell is going on? He's lost.
I swear they already turned down 88 million pounds. So it's
I don't know, but it's the market's losing its mind. So this will actually, like, as much as it is now, a lot of money. Like, this is actually going to become the new norm in a sense. And I think the scary thing is like why it will become the new norm is because clubs are actually just going to pay for this quality now. They're not going to, like you'll see £100 million transfers a lot more often than you used to in the past. So 100 million and above, even, with add-ons and that sort of thing. So yeah, look, it doesn't bother me as long as he plays really well for us, which I think he will do. It just mainly bothers me the fact that the sporting directors took so long on it, and we've already had this debate, but yeah, the fact that Eghbali supposedly came in, closed out another deal, it's just like, like you said, maybe they'll get someone above Winstanley and Stewart, because I do actually think in terms of like recruitment, Winstanley and Stewart I feel like they're good like identifiers of talent.
Targets they've done.
Yeah, but as negotiators, I feel like you need like that big boss ahead of you. I don't know whether it be Michael Edwards or I'm not sure about Luis Campos anymore. He's done dodgy at PSG, but someone with that more like authority and presence, I think, will be someone like they can report to.
Or just tell Eghbali, mate, you don't need to do all the other jobs. Just become our negotiator full time.
Yeah, all that, all that, because he always gets the deals done for us. So, yeah, no, one of those things I think might happen. I mean, I'd be surprised if we didn't go in for Edwards again, just because I think in the past, like, when he said like no to us and he was having like his like leave, like annual leave or whatever, he wanted time off. Like there was reports saying he was really impressed by like our pitch at the time. I mean, if you're him and you're saying, the amount of good players we're signing, like and what we're building, I think you can't really turn us down. So yeah, be interesting to see what happens.
Absolutely. Jimmy, I will get to your super chat. I will ask the boys about this potential system change once we talk about Romeo Lavia, because I think then it fits the discussion a little bit more than while we're just simply talking about Caicedo for the time being. Jem, I get to you though. Obviously, like we've just talked about it, we've compared him to Kante a little bit. You've compared him to Essien a little bit. The thing that I'm most looking forward to is, as much as that sounds harsh because we've just signed him for 150 million pounds, is the combination of him and Enzo, and that kind of that what I hope and think we will have balanced midfield, because a balanced midfield is the part that we haven't had in so long. Like, yeah, you could say there was a little bit of balance at times with Jorginho and Kante, but you always had that lack of pace and lack of physical ability from Jorginho. That was always there. Yeah. And Kante, sure, had to make up for it, and could make up for it, and that's why it worked at times. But I think Enzo and Caicedo, I can personally see them complement each other so well, and that's what I'm excited for. Now, obviously, that doesn't score us goals, and that doesn't keep us clean sheets either. But, I mean, at the back, I'm pretty happy with what we have at the moment. So, not really. Goalie's maybe a bit more still question marks. We'll have to wait and see how Rob Sanchez does this season. But the defense, I'm happy with. The midfield, I'm not happy with. Doesn't score us goals. But if it helps you keep control over games, you will lose a lot less games. And then the more control you have, the more you are able to create for your forwards. Even worse, forwards score more goals if they get more chances. So, to me, that's the part I'm most excited for, that we hopefully finally have a balanced midfield that can, in an ideal world, play together for like a decade.
100%. Whatever Caicedo's weaknesses is Enzo's strengths, and vice versa. When you look at the stats that were brought up on the two, it was talking about like the passes abilities, the tackling abilities, and whatever. It was always like they were the opposites to each other, and that's how you bring balance, right? Because someone that's very good at one thing and the other one maybe not being that. Not saying that they're bad at it, but not their
They can
strength.
also teach each other.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the big thing for me with Caicedo is the versatility element, because I've seen this guy play right back and actually do a very good job. I'm not saying we'll ever play him right back, but you know, it goes to show how good of a player he is when he can play in other positions and actually just look really good in it. And you know, he brings an understanding in the role that we've not had for a very long time. And even though Jorginho, like you said, Jorginho played as the sitter, he wasn't specifically the best because of his physical attributes in many ways. And with Caicedo, he carries them physical attributes, but he also has the ability with the ball. It's not like he's good at just breaking up the play and winning the ball, and then when he gets the ball, he's wasteful. You know, sometimes you used to watch N'Golo Kante and he used to go forward, but he'll just keep running, and you just want him to release the ball, but he'll just keep running with it, and it was too late, and he'd make the pass. With Caicedo, I think he's a little different because he has the ability and the eye to be able to pick up balls quickly when he wins, when he intercepts, or when he receives it deep. I've seen him turn midfielders easily. So if if he needs to beat the press and you need him to release you, he can do that. He's not one to lose the ball quite easily as well. You know, he has so much in his locker at the age of, what is he, 23? Is he 23? 21, yeah. He's 21 years old. He already has so much in his locker. On top of that, he has Premier League experience. Forget about the experience that you get for being a certain age. I'm talking about playing in this league, yeah, which he has done convincingly. He was Brighton's player of the season last season. He had a very good season for them as well. And, you know, they seem to think and feel that he's just going to go on and get better and better. And if this is the start for Caicedo in terms of his ability and what he's doing, can you imagine him in a team where it's full of quality? I'm not saying Brighton are bad because they've got quality. Technically, we've seen them, how they play. They're very organised. But in terms of the levels of individuals that are at Chelsea and obviously the players that are bringing across as well, being around, having that winning mentality and challenging, and that is all things that are going to push him as he gets into his prime ages. And we're going to see, as provided he keeps himself fit, we are going to see a really, really good signing in Moises Caicedo. And I think ultimately it will bring the best out of Enzo Fernandez even more, having him behind him, because not that he will leave him and forget about him, but he will know that he's got someone behind him that has the abilities to just do his job role, because he understands it and he's played it and he's done it and he has the tools in his locker to do all of it. And that's a big attribute to have. And, you know, it's an amazing signing for us. Yeah, it was a lot, don't get me wrong, but we said the same thing about Enzo Fernandez. But even rivals now are not even talking about the Enzo Fernandez fee. Why? Because the quality is displayed, the class is there. And I think now you're going to throw Caicedo in the mix of that, and you look at what we've needed for such a long time. He's going to hopefully answer that question for us moving forward.
Let's hope so. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the media will still consistently talk about the transfer fee. It was a British record fee, so I also understand that. Like, the media would be stupid if they wouldn't talk about that, because, you know, it's the attention points, I guess, to make a British record transfer fee and everything. But yeah, I couldn't really agree more with pretty much everything you've said. I'm just excited for it. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm just excited for it. The thing I don't like is certain fans being like, oh, now you've signed Caicedo, now you have a double pivot of 220 million or whatever. Now you need to win the league. I'm like, well, no. If being good in one part of the pitch wins you the league, then why does everyone have 11 players on the pitch? Do you know what I mean? No. We are still not quite ready for that. But our midfield, I would agree, is very close to being ready for that. Maybe, you know, playing together a little bit more, getting a little bit older. They maybe still need that. But in terms of ability, we absolutely have a midfield now ready to challenge and win the league. Absolutely. But yes, welcome to Chelsea, Moises Caicedo. I am absolutely buzzing. Can't wait for him to play. And do I think he's worth £150 million? As such, if you ask me that question, no. But was it worth to Chelsea paying over the odds to make sure he doesn't end up going to Liverpool, to make sure we don't look like absolute morons and having to, well, not that Lavia is bad or even other players are bad, but only having Lavia, who's only 19 as well, is even more, like 2 years even younger than Caicedo. I think that was worth it for Chelsea. That's what I finish it off on. But we're not done in midfield yet, because not only are we signing Moises Caicedo and have already signed Moises Caicedo, we are also on the verge of signing Romeo Lavia. Fabrizio Romano earlier, 3 hours ago-ish, reported that Chelsea and Southampton are closing in on Romeo Lavia move. Structure of the deal is being discussed, how to activate the add-ons, and also Southampton ask for a bigger part of the fee up front. Matter of short time to get the final green light and proceed with the medical. Here we go. soon. Pais, you know quite a lot about this through people that you have heard things from. A lot of that was also shared via your website and the website's Twitter and stuff, and also your personal Twitter or private Twitter. What can you tell us about this? How close to getting Lavia are we? But also, how on earth did we get Lavia? Because, I mean, I'll ask you boys both about do we need Lavia? We'll get to that later. But I'm just baffled by how we did it. Because unless we're now going to play a 4-3-3 all the time, which I can't see, at least once Nkunku is back. Until then, maybe. But for now, but after that, I doubt it. So he is not guaranteed to start. At Liverpool, he would be guaranteed to start. So we must have done something absolutely mental to make it absolutely a no-brainer to him to join us.
Yeah, I know Joe Shields has played a huge part in this, convincing Lavia to join, probably presenting the project. And I think, if we don't go to a 4-3-3, I think we also got to bear in mind that we're signing players also not just for this season. I'm pretty sure the club aim to get back in Europe. So next season, we will have more games as well. But yeah, I think the Lavia deal has been really interesting. I think on Friday or Saturday, what was the 12th? I think, what was the 12th? We double check.
The 12th was the
Saturday. That was Saturday. So yeah. So I was told back then we had agreed 52 plus 3 million in add-ons. Medicals were scheduled and everything. He was in London. Everything was basically done. But then the payment structure got rediscussed. And then basically Liverpool and Chelsea got into the mix with the Caicedo thing. So kind of took a back burner. But yeah, then I think I was told Chelsea planned a medical for today, but they didn't agree anything. So
is it true that Liverpool made another bid for Lavia, which was 60 million? So actually,
they did. So I tweeted on my personal. I was like, this gives time for Liverpool to respond because Chelsea are pushing to complete the deal. But I had a feeling, I was told they were going to come back. They did come back, supposedly. Then Joe Shields was on the case. Someone had told me we'd up the bid, and then it sort of came out that we did, and or match the fee or whatnot. I don't know what the final fee will be, but if the medical was supposed to happen today, but we didn't agree anything. Serge, I think this is the latest update. It's still structure. Southampton want a bit more upfront, but I think it could happen tomorrow or the day after. It's very, very close. But yeah, since last Friday, this has definitely been on the cards that Chelsea have been working on it.
There you go. Very interesting. And obviously Joe Shields, who formerly was at Southampton, he was the guy that brought Romeo Lavia to Southampton from Manchester City, where he was before that. Obviously playing a huge role. There was also some talk that Eden Hazard was involved in this. Do you know to what extent Hazard was involved in this at all?
No, I couldn't find anything about that. Which was a shame.
There was various reports. Some made it a bit more extreme. Some others said, he's more like, I didn't regret going to Chelsea, and Chelsea's great, and London's great, and, convincing him in that sense. I do also think, by the way, that London over Liverpool played a big factor in both of these transfers, personally. I honestly do. And I think that is sometimes something Chelsea fans sometimes don't appreciate, how much of an advantage that gives us at times, not only Premier League, but also London itself, especially when signing younger players. If you sign a 33-year-old or 30-year-old with 3 children, they probably care a little bit less about London. But these 19, 20, 21-year-olds, they will care about London. Now, hopefully they don't overdo it in terms of going out and stuff. But in general, I still think that that's a big advantage to take. Pais, unless you have anything else to add, I will go to Jem over it. First of all, excited that we look like we're getting Romeo Lavia as well, before I get to the question of do we need him, because he's a top player. Would you liken him to Caicedo? Would you liken him to even more, a step more defensive? Or would he be a bit more offensive? Because there's different people say different things about Lavia. Some say he's more of an 8, some say he's more of a DM than even Caicedo is. I think because he's 19, that's just not decided yet. He could just be both, and we just have to make a decision on what exactly we make out of him, I say.
He's first. What I would say is, go on. Sorry, Pais.
Right. Yeah, no. For me personally, he's more of a DM. But the thing is with Lavia, he's a very good ball carrier, very good ball carrier. So I could definitely see him, playing some more advanced role. I remember he scored that lovely goal against us from the edge of the box in the away game where we lost under Tuchel. If you remember that, I think that was actually his first Southampton goal. So he definitely can strike the ball. But yeah, he's definitely more of a defensive midfielder. I think he was playing as a lone six actually in Southampton's pre-season, because I saw someone like obviously when when this rumor started coming out and when it heated up, I saw a Chelsea fan like he like gathered some clips and he was just looked so comfortable, like scarily comfortable on the ball for a 19-year-old. Like, this is why I say, honestly, we're going to have the ball so much. Like, honestly, these midfields, if they play all three together and they gel, they ain't going to get near us. Like, Enzo, Lavia and Caicedo, on the ball ability is just, it's ridiculous. Honestly, it blows my mind that we're actually going to get both him and Caicedo. But yeah, for me, more of a DM. He's very physical for his age as well. He I love a tackle and stuff. So I'll be interested to see how it sort of gels. But I think flexibility as well. I think Caicedo can definitely play further forward, 100%. So yeah, I think actually I remember one of the debates we actually had. Was it last summer when we was talking about Caicedo and Rice? We was all like, well, Rice is clearly the more DM. Caicedo is maybe a bit more of a box to box, but. Now I think we've got options, like we really do. We can spring surprises, some games, we can play a 4-2-3-1. Other games, we might play a 4-3-3 or, I don't know. Like, it's just amazing to have both of them. I hopefully no hiccups and it gets done, because bloody hell, this midfield is going to be amazing. I'm not even joking. I'm so gassed for this.
Yeah, it is. Jem, similar question, like same question to you. How do you see Lavia? You excited about the signing? Thoughts? Tell me.
My dream was to have these two, Caicedo and Lavia, even before we was linked to them. So I've always rated Lavia quite highly. When people asked me originally about him, he was one of my first choices, or my first choice originally for signing. I think he's a specialist in a position that, not to say that Caicedo can't do what I think they both have, is versatility, and I agree with Pies. I think you'll see a 4-2-3-1, you'll see a 4-3-3. I actually think you'll see the 4-3-3 more in the bigger games, where we come up against the Uniteds and the Arsenals and that, which would be quite interesting, with the legs that we'll have in midfield. But it gives us so many options, and he is very, very talented, very comfortable on the ball, moves the ball very well. It's just mind blowing that we're even getting him. And when you think about how we've even got him in the first place, you've got to look at Liverpool and think to yourself, well, where did they go wrong? And it's pretty clear and obvious. He was focused on them in the outset when we was focusing on Caicedo. They decided to jump on the Caicedo hype because they supposedly all of a sudden were more than happy to spend 110 mil and get him. He's probably sat there and thought, well, actually, you've been spending 2 months talking to me, and all of a sudden, you've gone and jumped gun fighting for Caicedo, dropping a British record fee, and you've just left me in the mists. And now Chelsea have beat you to it. What Chelsea have done that's very clever in all this, and this is what I think. Obviously, we've got Joe Shields, and that's massive because he's brought him through City, Southampton, and all of that. But I don't think we've sat on it. We've still, we've always been clear on Caicedo. We've spent 3 months on that. But it's the fact that I think in all of that, I think we was also still talking to him, and probably maybe opened his eyes to it and been like, well, if you're their number one, why have they run off and come and competed us with Caicedo? And then all of a sudden they've run back because they've lost Caicedo. Oh, 60 million, because they're panicking now that they're not going to be able to get him. Try to pay that little bit more just to get him now. And he's sat there and probably gone, well, you know what? Actually, stuff you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't want me in the first place, so I'll go over to the project at Chelsea. And it is the project at Chelsea that's exciting, and he will get games. And we said this in the group. We needed one, but in all honesty, we actually needed two anyway. Let's be serious. And we was getting Tyler Adams until that pulled out. Yeah, for a good reason, by the way. And I think it's perfect because it set us up to having Lavia, and it's a massive thing. But from the Liverpool side of it, and I know it sounds like I'm going to start moaning about them, and I think we do need to a little bit, because they've just been, in my opinion, a bit unclassy in all of this. Obviously, they've lost the opportunities of these
unclassy, but also now they just look like the biggest.
They look like idiots. But I'm reading things now like on Twitter about their legends calling us out and saying that we lack integrity and that we've bought our way to these players and it's all about money and this, that, and the other. But the real truth is this: when it comes to Chelsea and Liverpool, these players that we've signed, Caicedo and Lavia, are young players, which means they've been in a generation of watching Chelsea when they've been successful. These ain't thinking about Ian Rush or, all these old players that they had back in the day. Let's be serious. Yeah. When you compare the generation that they were brought up into, we've actually won more than Liverpool. 5 Premier Leagues won. You know, there is more success at this football club than there is in Liverpool in their time frame. I'm talking about in their time frame. So, you know, they talk about money, and
they weren't even born when bloody Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or. Do you know what I mean?
What I'm saying. So they're only going on what they're seeing, and what they're seeing is the now and you know, maybe the last 20 years. And that's been Chelsea, the most successful club in England. So Liverpool, tough luck. You know, the last 20 years says we're a bigger club than you. Yeah, you're overall a bigger club in history. But when it comes to these lot and making decisions and why they should always choose Liverpool over Chelsea because of our history in 1964 is rubbish, because they want success. And at Chelsea, they've seen it. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I'm just happy that we've got him in, and excited as much as you guys are that the fact that we now have options on our hands as well.
Exactly that. I will get to Jimmy's question now in a second. I just want to bring up, you kind of touched on it earlier, Jem, in terms of the kind of the stats and graph where all of them are compared. Let me just find the right tweet. What a bloody hell is it?
Was it my tweet where I said the LFC midfield?
yeah, exactly. Well, I kind of find it. There it is. Because so not only because it's funny, because Lavia, Fernandez, Caicedo, we literally have LFC midfield. They have none of them.
Walker replied, look.
Yeah, it's so funny. Banger tweet. I can't lie, bro. Was you the first one that came up with this, or did you?
No, I nabbed it.
Fair play. Hey, at least you're honest. At least you're honest. But there you can see the comparisons of their stats. Obviously, Enzo by far the most offensive of the lot of them. Aerial duels, it seems like Caicedo is most certainly the standout one. Lavia seems to be really poor at aerial duels. Why the flip is his point over there? But anyway, he certainly has a lot of strength. But to get to Jimmy's question, I'll stick with you first, Jim, and then take it to Pais. But you make the idea for 4-3-3. I know you mentioned it now for the bigger games, but especially when Nkunku is out now. Obviously, once Nkunku comes back December, January, it becomes a different conversation. And also maybe it's a different conversation. We'll get to Olise soon. But depending on what other attackers we sign, making the 4-3-1 more of an option again. But especially now that in this game, okay, it was only Liverpool, and okay, it was because Trent moves from right back to midfield in possession, and that's why Chile and that left wing spot kind of made sense. But if you play a 4-3-3, you can just have out and out proper wingers that don't need to worry about that side as much, because you have a left CM and a right CM who cover that. Do you see us going for a 4-3-3? I know Poch used their 4-3-3 with PSG in his first season there. You could argue that wasn't particularly successful, considering they didn't win the league and he was a PSG, mind you. But obviously he took over being second from Thomas Tuchel. But I mean, he was like second by 1 point, I think, or a couple of points, whatever it was. Is it an option for you? Because 100%. At the moment, knowing Nkunku, Chukwuemeka wasn't bad against Liverpool, but he wasn't great. No. And then who else do we have? Now, we might sign Olise for that, but obviously he's also still out injured for a little bit. Can also play right wing, obviously. So how do you see it? Is a 4-3-3 a valid option with all three of these for you? Because it's also kind of crazy to put any of them on the bench. Like in a season where we are in the Champions League and stuff, then it's a bit different because you can just rotate them more comfortably. But when you only have one big game a week, with maybe towards the end of the season a couple of bigger cup games, then it's more difficult to leave one of them out, because let's just say Caicedo and Enzo are the starters and Lavia is on the bench. But if Enzo and Caicedo always play well, then how does Lavia ever come in, right? So from that perspective, a 4-3-3 would certainly make sense.
100%. I can see a 4-3-3 all day. I think it's a very good option. And I think the most important thing in all this is that we have so many options just bringing these two players in. And the one thing I would say is on paper, like, especially recently, I don't know about you guys, but like when you watch a system and like, all right, it's a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3 or whatever that Chelsea tend to set up in, it always seems to just, it always just seems to just change in game anyway. So yeah, it could look like a 4-3-3 on paper, but all of a sudden it could go into a 4-2-3-1 where Caicedo drops next to Lavia, and then you see Enzo being more of like the 8 on his own /10, hanging around with the forwards, you know, in between them lines. And, you know, like these are the things that I'm expecting. So I expect a lot of game time for Lavia. I think, yeah, once we get European football, that, you know, he will get even more games. But for now, going into obviously next year when Nkunku's meant to be back in January, I don't see why we don't start these three. You don't spend nearly 55 million on Lavia for him to just hold bench and maybe play 10 games a season. I don't see that happening. You know, I think you've got to use the talent that we have in the midfield, and in the mean of it, you could have Mudryk on the left, you could have whoever on the right if Olise comes, or whoever, Sterling, and then Jackson up front, and you play that. But it's definitely a powerhouse in midfield. And like I said, I think in the bigger games, I'd like to see it in the bigger games against like the Arsenals, for example, where they will play Partey and Rice with like an Odegaard in front, and then you've got us with them three, playing up against them, because technically on the ball, the ability to be able to carry the ball as well. I actually think that they do offer an attacking option as well, because Caicedo can carry the ball. See him do it enough for Brighton when he's got the ball and make the right decisions of his passing. Enzo Fernandez, we know, can do that anyway. Lavia, out of the three of them, has so much. What Lavia is very good at, from what I've seen him, is he's very good at receiving the ball from deep and kind of just like shimmering and beating his man with his, with his ability and balance on the ball. He seems to do that very comfortably, and I like that, because then it allows to initiate attacks a lot quicker. So it gives Poch these great options. And look, at the end of the day, I'm glad that Lavia's come, because what that tells me mainly is that he's coming here because he wants to compete, and he knows Caicedo's there. He knows Enzo Fernandez is there as well, but, challenge, give us options and challenge and fight for your position and make yourself a better player, in a part of a team that wants to challenge in the next maybe potential year or two, So for me, it's exciting times, mate.
Absolutely. I think it's an interesting point here that Flo makes. Says, why not Lavia and Caicedo in the double pivot and play Enzo in the 10 role? Now, you guys can obviously have your say on this, but for me, playing Enzo as the 10 is like playing Enzo as the 6. Yes, he's going to be good at it, but he's not as good as he can be. Because if you play him as a 10, you take out all these long balls, these 10 out of 11 long balls, these 13 out of 14 long balls that you see every game. That's not going to happen if he plays as a 10. If you want him to help us cover ground, cover the midfield, now maybe that's going to be less necessary having Caicedo and Lavia. That may well be the case. But one of my favorite traits of Enzo has been the way he can switch the play to wherever there is the space. And as much as Caicedo and Lavia are good at that, they're not going to be as good at that as Enzo is. And as an 8, he can do both. He can help in defense when necessary, can receive the ball deep and help us progress up the pitch with his passing, but he can also get involved in attack. But if you play him as a pure 10, then I just think he's too high to
I don't think,
that.
Can I say one thing on that quickly? I don't think we actually play him as, it looks like, again, a 4-2-3-1 with him playing as a 10, but when you watch how he plays like he did against Liverpool, where he did drop a bit deeper, you could say he plays.
I agree. I'm more saying if we did it like Flo said in his comment.
Yeah, I mean, he right. Listen, even against Liverpool, he was right. I think it was only him and Jackson that were arriving in the box anyway. So he goes from being in an 8 role to then potentially being a 10. Do you know what I mean? And being in the box and trying to support, or being on the outside the box. So I think he has the ability to do it. I just think we don't do it like you said, where it's a 4-2-3-1. He's strictly having to like stay in that 10 role, and I think he do it more like a Mason Mount.
Yeah,
when we used to
like
play
arrive
him,
late,
he can drop deep, and then he can come and hit the ball, and he has that freedom role. Do you know what I mean? And he can arrive in the box, and so I think that's the aim of Enzo, to just give him a freedom role with these two.
Exactly. Now, I'm aware, Vic. I just commented on this comment who said play him as a 10. But Pais, let me take this to you. 4-3-3 until Nkunku is back. Is that valid? But then what happens when Nkunku is back? I guess we'll have to wait and see how they all do until then. You never know. Obviously, touch wood. But we had so many injuries last season. We can't just run around expecting no injuries to happen. So that may happen as well at some point. But how do you see it? 4-3-3, what is your reaction to what I just highlighted there? That comment by Flo saying Enzo as a 10. Do you see that as an option? How do you see tactically having all three of these?
Well, I mean, Enzo would have the creativity as a 10, but I don't know if he's quite got like the dribbling and like the nimbleness, that type of thing.
Sometimes you need pace in that role as well.
I'm not sure. Like, I want to see Enzo shoot more as well, because I know he's got a hit on him. I've seen some of the goals he scored from Argentina. Nearly scored a screamer on his debut against Fulham. I always remember that one. But I think he just needs to get closer to the box, score more goals. So in that sense, yes, but I do agree with you. I think it might limit him a little bit. So I would like to see a 4-3-3. I'd like to see how it would work. Either Caicedo or Lavia as the line 6, and then the other two as number 8, or vice versa. So I think it'll be a really good sort of mix. And like Jem said, like you probably see, Lavia and Caicedo probably be more defensive in game anyway. Like the one thing we've seen so far, which has been positive, is like Poch's tactics have been good. They've been really good. So I think that's the positive. Even on on Sunday when we played Liverpool, I think I looked at the lineup and I thought, I'm not really sure about that, but didn't play bad, did we? So yeah.
No, exactly. It's going to be very interesting for sure how exactly we're going to line up, and I'm excited for it. Yeah, I mean, like on the one hand, yeah, it can lead, end up causing a little bit of drama. But all these guys have 8-9 year contracts anyway. Like even if they're like, oh, I'm unhappy, well, unlucky, mate. You signed an 8-9 year contract. Yeah, I mean, like we are in the power position here, absolutely. And as long as we do what's right with them long term, short term, I think it's also okay if some of them sit on the bench a bit more. We can't forget, we also have 5 subs. Like whoever's on the bench can also come on every game in the 60th minute and play half an hour every game. Now, Poch isn't exactly known to make early subs, but he could do. But yeah, I'm excited for that. Obviously, we'll talk more about Lavia once we get Here We Go, or once it's official, of course. But yeah, for the time being, I'm excited to have LFC midfield, and LFC have none of that LFC, which I just find the most hilarious thing in the whole world. I will be perfectly honest. But we're still not done here. You think Caicedo? Crazy. You're thinking Lavia? Also crazy. But no, we are not done. We are also seemingly signing Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. Chelsea believed from David Ornstein to have activated release clause in Michael Olise's contract and expected to complete signing in due course. If deal finalised, it would guarantee Crystal Palace £35 million. 21-year-old recovering from injury, and in the article it says expected to be back around the end of September. Could be earlier, could be later, who knows. But what do you make of the signing? I saw someone in the chat said earlier, 4 goals in God knows how many games. He's not good. Well, he might not have the craziest goal-scoring output, but you also, please, for the love of God, when you talk about these players, have to remember where they play. He plays in Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace. That does play a part. But for any Palace player to have 10 assists, I urge you, go back and find out when the last time was a Chelsea player had 10 assists in the Premier League. Or did Mount?
It's 11, bro. 11.
Yeah, but 10 or more, I'm saying. Did Mount have it just in the league? I think Mount might have had the 10 assists 2 seasons ago in all comps. So not in the Prem. When was the last time a Chelsea player had more than 10 assists in a Premier League season? That's a minute. I hope it's not since Cesc, but it might be since Cesc for all I know. And that crazy. So adding someone that's creative in that position. Now, at the same time, obviously, our main issue has been goals, not necessarily chance creation. And that has been the case for most years, but it's kind of flipped from here to there, right? Sometimes we didn't create enough and then we didn't take them. And sometimes we created, but then we didn't take them. But I think if you create a lot consistently, then the forwards will also start to consistently score more. But if in some games you create a lot, and then in the next game you create 2 chances, and then you create 3 chances, and then you create a lot again, but then you barely create anything again, that's when it becomes issue. That's when it becomes an issue for the forwards, because they need consistency to, get into the whole, like, I'm going to score every week type vibe, because you need to provide them. Like, we don't have Lewandowski, we don't have Haaland, we don't have Mbappe. We're not going to necessarily score every single chance. So what do you need to do then? Make sure you create enough high-level chances, not just chances, but high-level chances, and then we will score goals. And I think Olise will be good to help us with that. My only issue is we're essentially buying Olise, not fully, like I think we might have been interested regardless of Nkunku's injury, but partly because of Nkunku's injury. But Olise isn't even fit until September himself, late September. So that is obviously a slight negative to the whole thing. But in general, £35 million, his release clause, I quite like him as a player. I don't know if him or Eze is better. Like, they obviously Palace have 2 good players with them too in those areas of the pitch. But I like him. I'd be down. Obviously, he was at Chelsea in his earlier youth days already, before we released him. I can't remember at what age, but before we released him, obviously, he's born in Hammersmith. So, like, he's literally a London boy, even if obviously his national team is the French national team, at least until the under-21s level so far. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this if he comes. I hope he doesn't have any injury issues. Obviously, this is his first big injury. But after a big injury, you never know, especially a big muscle injury, you never know how do you recover from that. Will he now consistently have muscle injuries there? Like, how Pulisic did his bad muscle injury in that FA Cup final, and then that muscle constantly kept getting injured. And the same with Kante. Once he had that bad hamstring injury, he kept getting that hamstring injured and his groin, right? So that's the only worry about it. But otherwise, I think this is a good move. I mean, he's 21. He's already had over 11 Premier League assists in the season for a team like Palace. I think this is a good acquisition. Like, a Premier League player as well. As much as I often say Premier League experience is a little bit of an overrated stat, as you see by someone like Haaland. But obviously there's other, and you also see it by Cucurella. He had the experience and still shit. So it doesn't always mean everything, but it can mean something, especially in terms of settling in quickly when you're getting someone fairly late in the transfer window, fairly close to the beginning, or after the start of the season already. It's certainly easier from someone that's from London, moving in London, than, getting a player from another country, maybe doesn't even speak the language that well. Certainly makes the settling in process quicker and easier, but he's not fit until September anyway. I'll go with you first, Pies, on this. Thoughts, Michael Olise, his injury, the price tag, are you a fan of it? Would you prefer Kudus? Like, it's a tough one. I would like both, I'll be perfectly honest. Even if once Nkunku is back, both are a bit pointless. But for now, I would like both.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would have preferred Kudus. I think we need more goals, but I'm so happy with Olise. Like, honestly, I feel like, especially with the club, they might go and, sign a striker, perhaps. I still think that's on the cards. I don't think it's guaranteed that Broja stays, so I'd keep an eye on that one. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for the signing. As you said, 11 assists, playing with players, like Mateta and Ayew, and you can just do so much here. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the injury because I hope he does come back sooner from that, and I hope it's like a torn hamstring, quite a serious injury. But
when did he picked up the injury during the under-21s Euro, so it's not like he's been out forever. It's been
but like what I mean is, like, I hope it doesn't like reoccur or like there's an issue there long term. But I think the price is so good as well, man. Like, I think he's easily a 55, 60 million pound winger, easily in this market. He's got so much talent. Like, so, yeah, I think we've got him for cheap here. And, yeah, I think this is one of those cases where, like the release clause in McAllister's contract, I think we've got the player way cheaper than he's actually worth, just based on his ability. So, yeah, I'm very, very excited to see him play for us when he does come into the team.
Yeah, as am I. Obviously, initially was, Fabrice Hawkins, then it was David Ornstein, and then Fabrizio confirmed it as well, saying Chelsea have activated £35 million release clause in Michael Olise's contract, deal advancing to final stages. Clause has always been there despite denials, and all parties will be in touch to finalise the agreement. Olise already said yes to Chelsea, time to fix the details. There was some conversations in the chat earlier, like have personal terms been agreed or not yet? Fabrizio said yes to Chelsea. Details means details with. I don't think actually there's going to be that many details with Palace, because a release clause is usually pretty straightforward. So it's probably going to be more details with Olise and some with Palace as well, I'm sure. But yeah, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a problem there. But what's crazy to me, and I know it may be because of expecting how many minutes of game time they're expecting, but Man City were also interested in Olise, and it seems like, at least reports are suggesting, that he might be picking us over them, which, like, I am a Chelsea fan. I love Chelsea. I love everything that's happening. But it still baffles me how we're seemingly beating all of these other huge Premier League clubs to signings. Like Liverpool, City. It's not like we're competing with bloody Tottenham here. Like, we're talking Liverpool and Man City, the two most successful teams in the last 5 years in the country. So this is very impressive, and we must be doing something right, or paying them some sort of dodgy money, but one of the two, I guess. But Jem, are you also excited about the signing of Olise? If it was between Olise and Kudus, who would you have taken? Do you want both? How do you see the whole thing?
I think the future suits the future of what we're trying to do, and probably why we're signing so many young players attracts them to what the plans are moving forward, because it ain't so much. It is about the now, partly, don't get me wrong, but I also think it's about the future with us and what we're trying to do moving forward. And I think when you look at like a Liverpool, for example, where they've got aging teams, and City will eventually get there as well with it. They're probably looking at how the squads are averaging in ages, like Chelsea, for example, which is a very young squad still. And how we're looking to move forward. And it's an opportunity for like talented young players like Olise to come into this team and then, be a part of hopefully a really bright future and a successful future for us. And, he's a very talented individual. I've always liked Olise. What I like about him massively is that he has the ability to dribble. He also has the ability, a little bit different, and I think he will compete with Madueke, in my opinion, when they're both fit on that side. And I like that, by the way. It's the ability in front of goal, which I think is better than Madueke, because he can, I do think that when you watch him, even though he's only scored 4 or 5 goals this season, he's technically got a very gifted left foot, and obviously his assist levels at 11 is something that we miss massively in the forward line. A creative spark, someone that could get the ball, maybe find the final pass. I'm not overly relying maybe someone like Enzo Fernandez, who we know can do it anyway, but do it obviously a lot deeper, or even when he comes forward. But having that player on the right, knowing that when he gets the ball and you're a striker or you're Mudryk, that if you make the run, he has the ability to be able to pick it out. I think he's 11 assists last season were only matched by Saka, who had a very good season last season. I think he had 11 assists last season as well from the wings. So, that goes to show how serious he is. And that's at Palace, by the way. So imagine when he's in the team that dominates games, has a lot of the ball, and then, creates obviously a lot more with him in the team and the quality around him. So I think it's a big opportunity for him to really kick on in his own career. And you're right, the injuries is a big question mark. I said this to you about the Christopher Nkunku thing. Ever since he got that big injury, all of a sudden he's got another injury as well. It worries me a little bit because I'm like, big muscle injuries can be a factor in young players like him in terms of their, in terms of their appearance levels as well, because it's a demanding league and there's a lot that's asked for them, especially when you're playing at a higher level now at a club like Chelsea. So I just hope that he keeps fit, and I hope that it's something that doesn't occur, and that we get to and that he's available most times than others, and we get to see the best of him. Because if seeing the best of him, actually, I think means that we'll be a lot more successful in front of goal, creative wise as well. Because I think he's got that by abundance.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because you touched on obviously the Olise competing with Madueke. I think the interesting bit is, at least if we're going to do things like we did in preseason, obviously now with having Caicedo and hopefully most likely Lavia as well, that could obviously change. That even if we play a straightforward 4-2-3-1 with Chilwell and Reece James presumably as the fullbacks, that one of the midfielders drops deep rather than one of the fullbacks staying and only one of them pushing. But if we continue what we did in preseason, where only one of the fullbacks pushed, and in preseason it was usually Chile that pushed and Reece that stayed, to me that was less dependent on those two than it was. I mean, sure, Reece is definitely better at that than Chile is, but also if Cucurella doesn't leave, he might end up happening something with Newcastle. We'll have to see. But if Cucurella stays, you could also use him if we build in a 3 with the fullback staying. But if we allow it to happen on the right side, then the right winger comes inside and almost creates like a second number 10, and you almost have like a 4 behind the striker. The left winger, the normal 10, let's say Chukwuemeka in an ideal world, and Nkunku, whatever, pushes to one side, and then the winger comes inside to allow the fullback space to kind of be the winger. And that position is what Michael Olise is incredibly perfectly suited to, because yes, he's a winger, but he can also be as a 10. And he has that creative element to him, which in that coming inside role is really useful. While I think personally Madueke is more suited to being the winger that stays out wide and stays by the byline and receives the ball there and beats a player 1v1 then, rather than having the creative super pass in him. I think they're competing against each other exactly like Jem said, but they still offer slightly different strengths. And you can use them slightly differently, which I think can only be a benefit because it gives you more tactical flexibility, and not tactical flexibility in saying, we're playing 3-4-3 or 4-2-3-1, but more nuanced flexibilities. Like, does the winger stay wide? Does he come inside? Which one of them is more suited to it? And I think that's what's going to be perfect, because I want our squad to be well filled. I do think squad depth is an important aspect, even in the season without Europe. But it's also unnecessary if you have 2 players that are almost identical in the same position too often, because unless you have an injury, then that's useful, because then you can replace them like for like. But if you're having everybody fit, then some opponents, some games, your current fitness situation, depending on other players that are fit or not fit, having players that play the same positions but can do slightly different things, in my opinion, is a super useful aspect to have. I mean, Pies, there was reports that we at the club see him more as a 10, but obviously has primarily been played and used as a winger so far. So does that just make him a mix of the both, or do you think we'll end up turning him into an out-and-out number 10?
I think he'll stay on the wing, to be honest with you. I think he'll be the winger option with Madueke on the right. I think Sterling, Mudryk on the left. Yeah, I think it'll be like that. It's just obviously an added bonus that he can play as a number 10, but hasn't in a while, to be fair. He last played that at Reading. So, I was speaking to Crystal Palace fan the other day, and he said he's not played as a number 10 for us in a while. So, maybe even a couple of times, I think he said, more like an 8, really, not really as a 10. So, I think him and Madueke will be the right-sided options. Obviously, Sterling played there at the weekend, but I expect, Pochettino to sort of have Sterling and Mudryk on one side and Olise and Madueke on the other. And then when Nkunku comes back, we'll see what happens. But for now, I think he'll play on the right-hand side.
Fair dues. Fair dues. I think enough talk about Caicedo, Lavia, and Olise. We'll cover the last few bits of other news that we do need to discuss. One of them being, who else are we going to sign? Because that is also an interesting one. There was a report from Simon Johnson and Liam Toomey from The Athletic today, in which they said Chelsea would like 2 more attackers. One of them is most definitely going to be Olise. It's going to be a question, is the other one going to be a striker, or is the other one going to be someone like Kudus? And your goalkeeper, and Romeo Lavia, is set to join. I'll start with you, Jem. What do you think we should... Let's say Lavia joins. Let's say Olise joins. So take one of these attacker out. So 1 attacker, 1 goalkeeper, most likely. Who do you think we should be looking at in terms of goalie? Who do you think we should be looking at in terms of that attacker? Do you think we should look at another out-and-out striker? Or shall we wait until Broja is back? I don't know how soon he's going to be back, and then just have Jackson and Broja until January and then see if Tony is an option or not? Or would you go for a striker now? My ideal striker, and I've said this before, would be basically what we signed in Giroud in 2018, whenever it was we signed him from Arsenal.
I haven't seen
a player of that age, like 32-ish at the time, more experienced, a bit of a different profile to what Jackson is, to have a different option maybe to bring on later in the game when we struggle to break a team down. The only problem is I don't really know who would be out there as that. The closest to it is probably Alexander Mitrovic. But first of all, Fulham wants stupid money for him, and he's also most likely going to Saudi Arabia. So that kind of takes him out of the equation. So then who do you think we should get, Tim?
Who did you say, Pies? Taremi?
Taremi from Porto, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'd be down. Shoyan would be buzzing his tits off, I'll tell you that much.
I think we just need to be... What's the word? I don't see us getting a striker. I'll be honest with you. I just don't see it happening. I think we need one. I don't think we should be just relying on Jackson, but I think what we might do is wait till the January market. My opinion, I would have gone for Ivan Toney. That's who I've wanted for a long time. But obviously, with all of the issues that he's had, it might be a case that we wait in that area, because you look at Vlahovic, I don't think personally he's a big question mark for me. I don't think where I think he's a good goal scorer and he can, he has a variety of shots in him. I just don't think he suits what we're doing. If that makes sense, I struggle to see how we play. I know someone mentioned in the chat Wahi, good player, but again, it's question marks, isn't it? Still very young,
and also has apparently done some dodgy business, because I know the whole apparently was his cousin, but if I fucked up, I would also say it was my cousin. Do you know what I mean?
I think we should. What we shouldn't do is just rush and just assume. I think what Pies actually said with the guy from Porto, I've watched him. He's actually quite good. I'm quite impressed by him. He's different.
I would quite like this.
In hindsight, are Chelsea going to look at that? Probably not. Let's be serious. So, for me, the most important thing after Olise is sorting out the goalkeeping error. In my opinion, I think we do need another goalie. I know we're not playing as many games this season, but however, if Sanchez does get an injury, we need to have someone there. But the question is, what goalkeepers are available? There was talks about Kasper Schmeichel coming back and being an option. There's talks
apparently,
about the boy from
some
Leeds.
other sources have then said he's thankfully not an option. At least for me, thankfully.
Yeah.
I don't know how you see that, but
no, not for me. And then the other guy from Leeds, is it Milner, whatever his name is?
If we sign him, I will call this window a 0 out of 10. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I agree with Piers. He is a shocking goalkeeper. I am sorry, you do not go and bring him in. I know we might be looking at a number 2.
Is he worse than Caballero? Because obviously he would be a number 2. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, he's not good. I don't see why they would look at him.
I don't want him either.
Good.
I don't want him either. But I'm we had Caballero as a 2 for a while. He can't be worse.
Did we not see how many goals? I know Leeds played very attacking football, but how many goals they were leaking with him in goal? And there were some basic goals, like basic goals. I just have no interest in him. And then there's a talks about the Valencia goalie, but I've not watched enough of him to actually know how good of a goalie.
I just like his name. That to me is a great name, I reckon. So.
Yeah, so for me, it's just again another hard area, but then there is more, in my opinion, maybe more options for us to bring in. It's just we don't get our number one, and I think a number one for us would be someone like the AC Milan goalie, Maatsen, for example. Yeah, he would be a perfect person to come in and be the number one at Chelsea. But are we going to do that ideally in this window? No.
I mean, Sanchez is going to hand in a transfer request the day after. I mean, he'll be well pissed off.
Yeah, he will.
He'll be signed to Mignon.
So, it's a tough one. I think we will bring someone in goalie. It's just who, and I'm just worried that it's going to be someone that's just a bit like, because it feels a bit to be honest, with what's available. So it's a hard one for me, to be honest.
It is a hard one. I mean, I don't know. Should we consider someone like Dean Henderson or something? I don't know what the situation with him and Forest is. It because obviously they've got Turner now from Arsenal anyway. KSA man talking about Corbel. I just do not believe that we will go after number one, and Gregor Kobel is not coming to Chelsea to be competing or being a number two. Why would he leave Dortmund, starting goalkeeper, with their aim always, especially while Tuchel is a Bayern and can't win a game to save his life, winning the Bundesliga? Why would he come to us?
Navas is a good shout. On the bench, to be fair. Sorry? Navas is a good shout. To be fair, I didn't think
Navas.
Of him.
The only problem, I would like to take Navas on a season-long loan. That's what I would like to do, and then look at it again next summer. The problem is apparently he only has 1 year left on his contract, so that means we're not going to get him on loan, realistically, because then his deal expires for Forest. So you either need to buy him or don't get him. And do I want to buy him because he's 36, didn't have the best season last season? Also, wouldn't he prefer to stay at Forest playing every game than being back up with us? Because I don't think we play him every game. I don't know. Apparently, Bunu is now going to Saudi Arabia, which is a shame because I would have quite liked him.
He's a great goalie, he is.
Exactly. He's 32 as well. He could have been a good short-term option until we look at someone better or bigger soon. David De Gea is an absolute massive no-no, Asad. Like, David De Gea is literally the last goalkeeper we should ever entertain signing. Like, that would be a joke. If we let go of Kepa to bring in David De Gea, I will shoot someone, quite literally.
What about David Raya? He's gone to Arsenal, isn't he? But is he even good? I don't think he's that good, is he?
He's shorter than Kepa, man. I don't know what they're doing with that. Do you know what I mean? Imagine being shorter than Kepa. That's mental. As a goalie. But yeah, I'm in a similar boat to you, Jem, where I'm like, I think we should sign a striker, but only if it's the right type of striker. And we need to sort the goalie department out. The problem is, with Sanchez's arrival, the way I would like to fix the goalie department isn't going to happen. And then I can't really think of a suitable number two. And at the same time, if Sanchez stays fit, and he is going to be the number one anyway, I never gave much of a care about who our number two was behind Courtois or when Caballero was. Like, I don't care that much. That's only relevant when your goalie gets injured. So, yes, I want us to have a good number two. But if Sanchez is the number one for now, I don't care that much who the number two is. Just don't spend too much unnecessary money. And then, fair enough. Now we've signed Sanchez. As much as I wasn't the biggest fan of the signing, as much as I don't think he's better than Kepa, now he's here. So now let's give him the season, see how he does. After the season, we can then see, is he good enough to be our number one or is he not? At least not yet. And then we decide what we do next summer. If he had not a great season, we try to go for someone like Mignon. If he had a good season and has proven himself as our number one, then we can just make sure we have like a backup. Fair enough. But yeah, just find, that's why I would get a stopgap option right now, just in case Sanchez doesn't have a good season. And then we can still buy a proper number one next summer. Because if we buy someone now, and then Kepa comes back as well from loan, well, then what do we do? Then we have 4 goalies, and none of them are good enough if Sanchez doesn't have a good season. So, yeah, that is the issue here, but it's going to be interesting. Pais, you said, obviously, let's see what happens with Broja. I don't personally think, I mean, obviously, you will know more than me on this, but I don't think even if we sign a striker, we will necessarily let go of Broja, because having only 2 strikers is very limited options, in my opinion. Now, if Nkunku is fit, then having 2 strikers and Nkunku as an emergency striker option, that's fair enough. But while Nkunku is not fit, only having 2 strikers is quite little. So I would expect, if we sign a striker for Broja, to at least stay until January. But obviously, I don't know. But who do you think, or how do you think we should proceed, I guess, from here onwards, Pais? Having Caicedo, getting Lavia, and getting Olise after those 3 are done.
In terms of a striker,
just in general, who else should we sign? All positions.
Yeah, striker. I think I agree with you. I think Jackson needs to be the starter. So I'd go out and get someone that probably the ownership are not going to go and get, but someone, a bit older, like a Taremi or an
Taremi would be
experienced
perfect. It's 31.
Yeah, an
Although
extreme.
someone, sorry to interrupt you again, someone in the chat said that the Asia Cup is very similar time to the African Cup of Nations. So if we get Taremi, then Jackson and Taremi will be gone at a similar time. So that is kind of pointless.
Okay, yeah, maybe not then, but we need to get someone that's, someone a bit more experienced, lower wages, someone that can allow Jackson to be a starter, but it's also good enough to come in. Obviously, it's a fine balance, and that's why the Giroud signing was so good. So I think we should look at that area, and then I think the goalkeeper, again, I think Sanchez probably be the number one. So a number two, someone again, I think we need to go with experience. I feel like we need to go a bit older, someone that's potentially got 1 or 2 years left on their contract. So yeah, I mean, I saw a list of goalkeepers on like the last year left, and to be honest with you, like I've not really watched any of them, so I wouldn't know. But like, there's a few on there. Like there's Navas, there's like Baumann from Germany. I don't know, like he's a few, but yeah, I'm really interested, to see what we do with goalkeeper, because I think we can either like F that up or we can get it, spot on. And I think the same probably go with striker. Just hopefully we don't buy another young goalkeeper, because then it just blocks Sanina's path as well. Whatever you think, it just does. So, yeah.
But at the same time, and to be honest, we kind of glossed over that a little bit. Let's bring it up one more time, because I did want to talk about that. I mean, clearly we don't care about potentially blocking other players, because it's a bit out of order now. I do apologize, but and I'll start with you, Max, as I've just been with you anyway. Did we need Lavia? Do we need Lavia? Because it's great to have those options. It's amazing, but we did 2 weeks ago sign Ugochukwu, who's the same age and very similar profile. Yes, maybe not as talented, maybe not as good, not in the Premier League, but has actually played more first-team games than Lavia has in his career. Is, like I say, the same age and a very similar profile. And we have Santos, who everybody is telling us is the greatest midfield talent in his age group. So did we then need Lavia? And I'm not saying that's because I don't want Lavia. And I would have preferred to sign Lavia and not sign Ugochukwu potentially. But we did sign Ugochukwu before we decided to sign Lavia. And that's the part I don't fully understand. Because what's the point? Enzo is 22. Caicedo is 21. Lavia is 19. Ugochukwu is 19. Santos is 18. All these 5 players are within an age span of 4 years. It's not like you have 2 28-year-olds and then 2 20-year-olds. And then by the time the 28-year-olds turn 30 and you phase them out, then the other 2 become the starters. It's not like there's this natural progression when they're all in this age group. There's going to have to be decisions made. And I totally understand that we're going to be able to loan some out and sell some out. I get that. But we signed Ugochukwu from Rennes, who I think finished in the top 4 last season to play Champions League football this season. Maybe they finished Europa League spot, but they're still in Europe, that's for sure. And now we want to send him to Strasbourg, who finished 14th. Like, it just seems... I really would want to know what we sold Ugochukwu as a dream, because he apparently was also involved in talking to Lavia and getting him to come here, which is even more baffling. Like, that is honestly my question. Not, is Lavia good? We all know he is. But did we need him?
It's a difficult one, because I think we could all say, we did really need him if he plays really good for us and helps the balance in midfield. But I do agree with you, Ugochukwu and I mean, maybe even Santos, Caicedo, they're probably all looking at the situation like, well, am I just going to be flip for profit, or what's my plan here? So I think to be honest with you, like a lot of these young players will know more once we sort of in the next 1 or 2 years, to be honest with you, because I think what we're doing right now is we're buying a lot of young players, and we're just sort of, our fans are almost like putting all of them in the first team and like, okay, what's the plan for him? What's the plan for him then? That sort of thing. So, I'm not too sure. Like, we didn't need him as such. Like, we didn't. We could have just got Caicedo. But, again, if Lavia goes to a rival, does really well, we might think, shit, we should have got him. So it's one of those. I feel like...
No, I get that. But did we have to sign Ugochukwu first? That's why I sometimes
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
But things randomly, or did we have that plan?
I feel like we did have a plan. It's just we don't understand it because we're not at Cobham. So
no, of course, that's very important.
And it is hard to understand because you sign a Ugochukwu, young DM who's played a lot in France, 20 million. You go and sign a 19-year-old for Southampton for 50. You're thinking, what's going on? But Yeah, I mean, but it might make more sense, and I know people don't like this model, if in 1 year or 2 years we sell Ugochukwu for £50 million, which then helps the books, which then helps get more first-team signings when we don't actually want to spend as much. Right? So, there could be like a conveyor belt of like profit for us, hopefully.
I hear that, but my worry with that is, yeah, sure, that can also happen at Strasbourg, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see how obviously Strasbourg do the season. They beat Lyon on the opening day, so that is a good start. And obviously they've invested already 33 million euros, I think, this summer, which is 500,000 euros more than they spent in like the last 5 years combined or whatever. So we've certainly helped them, be a bit more active in that and hopefully get them up the table to some extent. But there's still there's a certain limit, a certain ceiling to how far a club like Strasbourg can develop players, to what kind of financial value they can develop a player into. Because will Ugochukwu become a 60, 70 million pound player at Strasbourg? He will overall, but will that happen at Strasbourg? And if it doesn't happen there, then what do we do? Do after season loan in Strasbourg? Do we loan him somewhere else? Do we bring him in the squad? Where is the squad placed? Now, sure, next season, if we're back in whether it's Europa League, Champions League, whatever, there's more games. But then you're still more than 5 midfielders is a bit unnecessary. Like more than 5 options for a number 6, like in the double pivot, let's say. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a problem with it, and I'm sure they have some sort of idea what to do. And this is no offense at Ugochukwu. I'm sure he's a good player, even though I've seen nothing of him until he came on against Liverpool the other day. Was it necessary? And I'll ask that to you, Jem. Obviously, the question should be, was Ugochukwu necessary? But because we signed Ugochukwu first, was Lavia necessary?
Yeah, 100%. For me, Lavia was necessary for what we're doing right now. And I get what you're saying in terms of the common sense element to it. Like, what are we doing here with this? Like, we're buying a lot of young, talented players in around the same age. It's not like there's a massive age difference between the players, and that 100% get that. But I think the way Chelsea want to do things is not necessarily about bringing all these young players in and expecting them all to get into the Chelsea team. I think there's still that old regime way about it, in the fact that we'll bring these young, talented players in. We have got the multi-club option where we've got Strasbourg, and some of them may go through there. There is also the option that we may still loan them back to their clubs that they came from, like Rennes, for example, or whatever, which allows them to, like you said, maybe gain more experience, become the players. But there's also another thing as well. All these young players that we're buying, especially ones that are in the first team, maybe 2-3 years down the line, might want to move on. It could happen. We've seen it. They might want to then go to Real Madrid or Barcelona or whatever, especially if they're successful at Chelsea, have done the bits that they need to do. And if you start losing individuals, main players, individuals that are in the club, are in the squad, and they move on, I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying there's a chance that they may want to do something different eventually. Bearing in mind their age, they could get to 24, 25, whatever it is, 26, and be like, right, I'm ready for my next thing. And you've still got someone like Ugochukwu who's been on loan and have a couple of games for Chelsea and out for the seasons, but he's now, a very good prospect to then bring into the club. Then it gives them the opportunity to.
Does this ownership feel like, if say let's use Lavia as the example. Let's say in 4 years, Lavia is like, okay, I would like to leave, gets an offer from, let's pretend Real Madrid, right? Yeah. Does this ownership then feel like they're just going to use Ugochukwu to replace him? Or does it feel like they're then going to sign another expensive midfielder? Because that's what I think. If that happens, they're not going to use Ugochukwu. They're going to sign another big player then. Because, and that's where I'm like, okay, I get the conveyor belt idea, but I don't believe that our owners will act like that, where like, okay, one sold, we have the next one ready already. I just don't think we will.
Yeah, but that
will be that way.
But that's made easier. Yeah, but that's made easier if these individuals are performing very well in, for example, say the French League, which is, just be serious. The French League's a lot more competitive now than it was 5-10 years ago when we were watching it. So there is a good, a good amount of experience for these players to play and learn and do for the next couple of years over in the French League. If I'm just using the French League as an example right now, but that could happen. So what I'm saying is, they could be ready a bit later down the line and then bought across, and then we might then have to sell an individual that maybe wants to go and whatever. Like, for example, Caicedo's got, I'm not saying he's going anywhere, he's just got it, but he's got a sell-on clause, right? True. He's got a sell-on clause.
To me, that suggests we're not planning to ever sell him, because Otherwise, we would. That's why we were so happy to agree to that sell-on clause. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Because we don't plan on selling it.
Hypothetically, I think we don't know the answer to these questions now. I think these questions will be answered later on, and whether we do what we did like the old regime, which is just loan out all these players, all these young prospects, and then eventually sell them on, which we could do as well, because now they've made a bit of profit, bought them for 20 mil, they're now worth 50 mil. See you later, because Tottenham.
I just don't think, if that is the plan, I don't think Ugochukwu has been told about it yet. Because otherwise, why on earth would he be involved in trying to get Lavia to the club? Obviously, we don't know if it's true, I suppose, but still, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But there is some kind of breaking news about the Olise situation. It's a mail exclusive from Sami Mokbo, who says sources have indicated Crystal Palace have considered formally reporting their top-flight rivals, Chelsea, for making an illegal approach for Olise. Though whether they are prepared to take such a drastic step remains to be seen. It also continues to say, in the event of any formal action from Palace, Mail Sport understands that Chelsea are comfortable with the way they have conduct themselves in the pursuit of Olise. I don't really know what I make of this, because obviously we don't know the ins and outs of why things always happen. But I swear we tried to ask Palace about the injury situation about Olise, and they just didn't tell us. So then why are you shocked that we contacted the player then? Are you dumb? Do you know what I mean? And also he has
that's what I was told.
Surely those kind of the rules and like, are you allowed to talk to a player are different if there's a release clause that can just be activated. No, like I'm not saying that
he's got a buyout clause, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what do you mean you can't talk to the player? You have a buyout clause.
I'm saying it makes no sense. Surely,
yeah,
that's just.
I think it's a load of media scaremongering again, but who knows? Pies, what do you want to add to it?
Yeah, Simon just says there are concerns at Palace of tapping up of Michael Olise. So I don't know.
Yeah,
he's got
apparently, according to this, Olise deleted all Palace photos from his Instagram. I didn't know that. But yeah, yes, fair play. That's very interesting.
But I wouldn't mention to it anyway. To be honest, I think it's one of the ones like you say, like it'll probably end up being a Chelsea player. And
I mean, that's what they all do at the moment anyway, reporting us about doing things that they don't like. Because
I wonder if Lewis Hall will still go there. I don't think he will now. You know, if they do this.
I mean, maybe we will tell them you can't have Lewis Hall if you do this. So there's always ways to put pressure on people. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure there's tapping up Idriso means as much as getting in touch with a player, because by the laws of football, unless the player has less than 6 months left on his contract, you have to ask permission of their parent club before you get into direct talks with a player. That is the official rules. But as everybody knows, no one sticks to these rules. So it's this is a weird rule for me, and weird when some clubs sometimes complain about it, because I'm like, but everyone does this. Maybe less so at the size of Palace. I'm not sure, obviously, but Bayern do it. Barcelona do it. Real Madrid do it. City do it. Liverpool do it. United do it. We do it. It's kind of just part of football, even if there are. It's it's a bit like speeding. Yeah, sure, you're officially not allowed to, but essentially everybody does it, and then just some people get caught and some don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those. So I don't know what's really going to happen with this. I wouldn't.
Secret Scout just said that if it was a case that they made a complaint, all it would do is just delay the signing in itself. So what's the point of putting a complaint in to formally?
Exactly, it just makes it more difficult for themselves because they need to replace it.
Sammy Muckles just said that it's also that the Lewis Hall situation with them's been delayed as well of recent.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe this all leads to the same thing.
And if you found out about this, but it only remains to be seen whether they are going to take this step to formally complain, then that doesn't, to me, sound like they will do that. Maybe they're trying to put some pressure on us as well. You never know. We're used to it from the Brighton saga now, with clubs putting pressures on others through media briefings. You never know. You never know. But the last little topic I want us to discuss, well, I guess this one can be mentioned. There are growing whispers of other clubs complaining to the Premier League about Chelsea's spending. One other thing that should be mentioned is we all heard about it, we all talked about it also on here, when in the second half of last season, UEFA changed the rules about amortization, and you could only amortize contracts and deals over maximum length of 5 years. The problem is, or the problem for the other Premier League teams is, because we finished 12th, we're not in Europe this season. So therefore, the UEFA rules don't actually apply to us, which I find it weird how none of the journalists figured that out until yesterday. That is baffling to me. But anyway, turns out because we're not in Europe, and the Premier League rules haven't changed, we can still amortize deals over 7, 8, 9, however many years we want, I think. And that's what we've been doing. That's why we've still handed out these 7, 8 year contracts. But now the Premier League are also going to change these rules next summer. I just want to say one thing on this. I don't understand these other clubs, because all that now does is it's given us 3 transfer windows already. It will be a 4th with January, where we could use these loopholes. And by the time any of our competitors could basically catch up to us by also using this smart way of accounting, they have banned it. So now all that's really happened is we could use this loophole, if you want to call it that, even if it's a normal thing of, what's the English word for it? There's a word in German I'm looking for. Like, the tax man, basically. It's normal in taxations, right?
Yeah.
To amortize deals over longer periods, blah, 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 financial years, etc., etc. Now they're just stopping themselves from doing it, but they allowed us to do it for 4 transfer windows. To me, that's just stupid. But to bring up the next thing, because that's just to put it into some more context, and this is by The Athletic, so not by someone random. Chelsea's estimated amortized spending in the past 3 windows under Boehly and Clearlake, using initial transfer figures reported by The Athletic, comes to £157.2 million. This significantly lower number is almost entirely offset by an accounting profit from player sales of 149.6 million over the same period. And this is before we got rid of Lukaku, before we got rid of potentially Gallagher, before we got rid of potentially Chalobah, before we got rid of potentially Ian Maatsen, if he ends up leaving, or maybe Cucurella, before we got rid of Ziyech. We are fine. The only thing is where it could become a problem is in 4 or 5 years' time. If we continue to spend like this, then this amortized sum that we have to pay essentially every year, we don't pay it every year, but it's on our books every year, that can become a problem if you do it too much. And then you have like 25 players, amortized fees every year on the books, then it can become an issue. But that's why we have spent so much in such a short period of time, because once we've sorted the squad out and once we've finished the overhaul, the plan is probably to sign 1 or 2 players every year and leave it at that. And then this kind of fixes itself. But yeah, it's just funny to see other clubs and other fans and other clubs crying about it just because they don't really understand. And I'll be honest, I'm not an expert either. The only things I know is through things I've learned as Chelsea have done these in quotation marks, dodgy things. But essentially, yeah, I don't think we'll have that much of a problem. Pies, would you pretty much agree with what I've said, or anything you'd like to add to that? I'm not sure if you are aware that you're muted.
I don't think he's muted.
Yeah, maybe he's not here because he did rejoin and then there you go. Pies, I didn't realize you weren't here, and I asked you, do you agree? Essentially. Go on.
My internet is so cooked. I'm gonna have to go if it keeps doing this. But
yeah, give him one last chance. We're gonna finish it up after this anyway. But anything you'd want to add to this tweet about the amortization and the fees? It's just funny how no one seems to understand how we're doing these things and we're doing things perfectly legally.
Yeah, the funniest thing, that Simon Jordan on TalkSport, he used to own a football club. I think it was Crystal Palace, and he did this whole 2.5-minute video of this is why Chelsea are allowed to spend. And I listened to it, and I gotta say, I didn't understand it, and that's a good thing, because that means that none of the no one on Twitter or anything like that, all these rivals, none of these guys are going to understand FFP. The ones that are going to understand it are Boehly and Igbali, because they're self-made billionaires,
and our accountant.
They know figures and estimates and everything and books, and this is it's always nonsense. Oh, you spent 900 million, so you have to be transfer banned. No, not at all. We've also made over the last 2 summers probably 300-400 million in sales. We've put everyone on longer contracts. We've reduced the wage bill massively. All these things add up. So yeah, for me, I have no concerns and no worries that we will get in trouble. And I think even if we do, I think FFP nowadays is such like scaremongering. I think that Chelsea might just accept, they might just accept the fine. I don't think they'd be doing anything like this if they thought there could be
They
a
already
risk.
paid a 10 mil fine anyway for some dodgy business that happened under Roman.
But like how we worked with UEFA and that, like already, like I just don't feel like there's any chance that Boehly and Clear, like knowing what they want from this club is ultimately to induce the revenue and the price so they can sell it in 10 years or 12 years or whenever they go. They're not going to get us transfer banned, are they? Like, let's be serious. So
yeah,
I just find it hilarious. Keep crying, rivals.
Exactly. The one thing I will say is it's good for us as Chelsea fans and as Chelsea, but I do agree with the rival fans that financial fair play doesn't work. If selling the player, put all that money that you sold them for on your books immediately, but when you buy a player, it splits up over the contract length, regardless of whether that's now 5 years, 7 years, or 8 years, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. That system of financial fair play does not work, because then the selling is always outweighing the buying, and that will never, ever manage to create, because the idea of it was obviously that the super rich clubs, your Chelseas, your Man Cities, your Man Uniteds, can't crazy overspend the likes of the smaller clubs. The problem is the first negative impact it had, that the big clubs, the Man United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they make the big, well, not Barcelona the last few years, but they make the most amount of money. They make the most revenue. And what financial fair play essentially is I think you can spend like 30% or is it whatever percent over your revenue, essentially, is the base rule. But because the biggest clubs make the most money, they can always overspend. So if anything, the financial fair play has kept the gap between the biggest clubs and the smaller clubs bigger, because all that really meant is new investors take a longer time to really be able to make the big investing at clubs. Like you see it now with Newcastle. Obviously, they spent fairly big for Newcastle, but they didn't spend big like having all of Saudi Arabia owning the club. They could have spent a lot more if they weren't limited by financial restrictions. But because of where they came from, being in the Championship recently, having Mike Ashley and some questionable sponsorship deals and everything else, they don't have the money and they don't make the revenue to spend that much money. So financial fair play is a whole mess. It's a positive for us now, but financial fair play is one of the most embarrassing concepts that UEFA have ever come up with. I mean, UEFA and FIFA are both absolute embarrassing organizations anyway, which is why I was against the Super League, but not as extreme as a lot of other people were, because I feel like most people just give UEFA way too much of a free ride than they should. But yeah, I mean, Jem, there's not really that much to add, but what's your opinion on the whole financial fair play situation and other clubs complaining about our spending?
Rivals just cry more, innit? I don't really care. At the end of the day, these guys are businessmen. They probably have 5 or 6 people on Clear Lake Capital sitting there reading the rules and regulations of FFP and where we can find loopholes and do things and make things happen. By the way, the fine that we got for what Roman Abramovich did in the past was actually passed on from Chelsea Football Club to them. We reported it, by the way. They didn't just find it from us. We actually found it ourselves and reported it. So that's something to just be aware of as well. So, that's us showing that we want to comply and work with them moving forward. And, another thing, it's always with Chelsea, it's always talking about the incomings, how much we spend. Chelsea spent this, but they forget to realise, and there was a tweet that I read from a guy called Kieran, actually. He's talking about the outgoings of Chelsea since 2014 up to this period now. He says that in terms of sales and outgoings, we've done nearly 1.3 billion worth of sales of players since 2014. So that's over a 10-year bracket. And that's a massive amount of sales that have also gone out again, which then he said goes against the book and what you're actually doing and what you're bringing in and etc. So, look, we're not stupid. At the end of the day, Todd Boehly, he found one loophole last year. He's found another now. Have we spent a lot of money in between these periods? Yes. Have we done it just because there was a loophole to allow us to extend contracts and benefit from it? Yes. My thing is, why use crime, rivals? It's not our fault that your owners, that your clubs didn't think about doing these things, because they could have. Let's be serious. It's not like these clubs haven't got money. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. They can say we're going to get caught out later or whatever it is that they think is going to happen. But I agree with Pies. you get in trouble with FFP these days. It's just a financial fine. You know, that is really all it is. And for Chelsea, I don't really think we're going to worry about it too much. And when you look at what's happened with City in the past and how much they've got away with up to this point as well, let's be serious, they didn't even get fined by FFP, and they got looked into twice.
I mean, with City, obviously have to wait. There's obviously this investigation going on. They could theoretically have all that time restricted. Then things change. But
it's talking about points deductions for us as well. I don't see all of that. I'll be honest with you. You know, I think it will just be a fine. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You know, it's their fault for not actually making it more clear, in my opinion. The FFP I'm talking about, they're making it like you said. So we've just found loopholes and we've played by that, and that's why they're changing the restrictions on them for the future, because we've used it very well and they can't do nothing against us. And this is why they're not bothering. I don't think they're going to bother looking at what we've done under these owners, and why they're probably trying to dig up dirt from what we did in the past, just so that they can hurt us that way. That's what I think anyway. So yeah, we move.
I agree, mate. I agree. At the end of the day, they will all cry and we will just keep spending, at least for the time being. We've got Caicedo. Let's get Lavia done. Let's see what happens with Michael Olise. One last thing I wanted to bring up, but we're wrapping this one up now. Cesar Azpilicueta has joined Leicester City in the Championship on loan for the season, so good luck to him. Hope it goes well. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Still 300 people watching. Massively appreciate that. Subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Hit that like button on your way out. Let's get to, did we hit 150? Very close. We did, to be fair, 158. So let's try to get to 200 before we leave. But please do make sure you subscribe to Jem's channel, GNA TV. The link is down in the description. Just click the @ and subscribe to him. And of course, check out Pys's website, londonsfirst.com, as well as his Twitter. As always, shout out to both of you for joining me. I appreciate it very, very much. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, what am I hearing here? Shall I read this up?
It's just for you guys. Yeah, just something about what we were just talking about earlier. That's all. But go on.
All good. All good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you all very much. Like I say, subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.